Hey guys, I'm Summer and this is my Cooking by the Book video series. Cooking goes well together with many playstyles and is a great way to make money. Right off the bat, here's 3 examples of what cooking can be for you. Collecting your free 45 to 120 mil profit every day from an NPC. Or cook in-game while you walk the doggo for easy CP and AFK money. Or you can gather, process, farm and cook up a storm for billions of silver. You can see this series as a guided tour through cooking, from setting up to getting EXP and making money with it. In this video we'll start out nice and slow with gear, mastery and getting materials. And by the end of the video you'll know how to efficiently level cooking to guru. Cooking is easy to get into but hard to master, and in this series I will make mastering cooking easy. I'll break down all the spicy topics in cooking into bite-sized chunks so you can understand cooking from the ground up. And then we're gonna use that knowledge to min-max the hell out of cooking. You're gonna see how to use your time and resources to maximize profit and how to think like an efficient cook. To get the most value out of this guide, you'll need 2 things. A, it helps if you've cooked before, at least a little bit. And B, have a healthy interest in doing things efficiently. If you want a more laid-back introduction to cooking, I can recommend these 2 guides. Also, since mastering cooking is all about knowing your resources and tools, I'll frequently point to external resources and you can find those in the video description below. 2 of them are so important that I'll mention them right now. The best in slot life skill calculator Bdolytics and the life skill Discord, which has an insane collection of knowledge and is the place to be if you're trying to get knowledgeable on life skills. Before we start, I'll present 3 questions. Chances are you either have encountered or will encounter them at some point in your cooking progression. Should I cook with mastery or silver embroidered clothes? In which town should I cook? And what is the most efficient way to level cooking after guru? After watching this video, you will hopefully know the answer to all 3 questions. And with that, we can turn to our first topic, gear. Your gear in cooking has 2 goals: to bring down the cook time as low as possible and to get more mastery. Your cook time starts at 10 seconds and the minimum you can reach is 1 second. Here's how to get it. The way to get 1 second cook time with spending the least amount of silver is gonna include an advanced or supreme utensil, seafood cornmeal, spirit stone Embroidered draft, plus 3 silver embroidered cook's clothes and the canapé costume. From there we can upgrade to a sharp alchemy stone of life of any color to get 1 second cook time even when our redur runs out. The canapé costume is a pearl shop item, and if you don't want to spend cash, you can still get 1 second cook time by upgrading from plus 3 to plus 4 cook's clothes. On sheet you can reach 1 second cook time, but realistically you will get server lag between crafts, so your real cook time is more like 1.2 seconds. And the lag varies from person to person though, and you can find your own cook time by timing how long it takes to use up 1 utensil. Let's talk about utensils. There's a lot of different utensils and I'll point out the ones that I recommend using. First, we got our basic bitch cooking utensil bought from a vendor. It's easy to get, but has very limited durability. You'll want to move on from them pretty soon to advanced utensils. They got much higher durability and give 1 second cook time reduction. The downside is that they need to be crafted and require rough stone and logs. You can gather rough stone at Pilgrim's Haven in the desert and chop trees for logs or simply buy them. To find a fitting workshop to craft them, just punch in advanced cooking utensil into the search field on the map and the game will show all the appropriate workshop locations. Supreme utensils are pretty much advanced utensils with 5k durability. They can't be crafted, but you will get them through exchanging various items like Imperial cooking seals, Dark Rift drops, Node War medals, and through Mountain of Eternal Winter dailies. Traditional utensils have high durability but increase your cook time. You can use them for overnight sessions where we don't care about the cook time. Advanced and supreme utensils can be repaired. To get a repair kit, you can exchange a utensil with a cooking NPC of your choice. Now let's talk about mastery. If you hover over your cooking mastery in-game, it will show a bunch of cryptic values. But what do they mean? Simply put, cooking mastery will give you a chance to mass cook, increase how many dishes you get each craft, and increase the silver you get from Imperial boxes. So what's mass cooking? Well, each time you cook, there's a chance to consume 10 times the materials and get 10 times the product. It essentially speeds up your cooking. Also, since mass cooks take the same durability as regular cooks, higher mastery means less durability used. So, good news, more mastery equals fewer trips to pilgrims. Mastery also increases the number of items we get each craft. Each craft we get between 1 and 4 items, so 2.5 on average, and we get rare procs at 0.3 per craft. The higher your mastery, the higher the chance for maximum procs, which means higher proc rate on average. Here you see the proc rate for regular and rare items for each mastery bracket. The rates you see here apply to the majority of dishes, but there are a few exceptions. For example, good feed is 3 to 5 procs with an average of 4. But don't worry, Bdolytics will handle all proc rate shenanigans for you. Onto lightstones and artifacts. There are essentially 2 lightstone sets for cooking, the budget and the endgame set. The budget set is called Excellent Chef and will give you cooking EXP. The endgame set is called Fundamentals of Cooking and the only set to give cooking time reduction. The bottleneck for the endgame set is the Stir Stone. Okay, and what about cooking artifacts? They drop from Imperial cooking turn-ins at a low chance. The best in-slot artifact is Cooking Mastery. It will take a while to get, so in the meantime Cooking EXP, Life Skill Mastery, and Life Skill EXP are good alternatives. Now onto accessories and clothes. Accessories are gonna be shared with other life skills, so just use whatever you can afford depending on how hard you want to go on life skills. Logia accessories are a great start, and if you are serious about cooking, Geranoa and later Manos accessories will significantly increase your money-making potential. You will also want to get a storage container which you can rent from any storage keeper for 10 CP and a set of mastery clothes for Imperial turn-ins. Logia clothes are a good bang for your buck, and if you have the bill and a half it takes to make Roroju, they'll pay off fairly quick from higher Imperial profit. Manos clothes are darn expensive and only really start to shine once you use them for actual cooking. We've now arrived at the first question from the beginning. Should you cook with mastery or silver embroidered clothes? Silver embroidered clothes have cook time reduction and can give us 1 second cook time. With mastery clothes, we're always gonna be above 1 second, but we'll get extra cooking procs from higher mastery. So what's better, cooking more or getting more procs? It's actually something you can math out, but to avoid boring you to death this early in the video, I'll skip the math and go straight to the results. What we know for sure is the Fundamentals of Cooking Lightstone set is a big game changer. It reduces the cook time with mastery clothes from about 4 to 2 seconds. If you don't have the Lightstone set, using silver embroidered clothes will get you the highest profit on every dish. Of course, when you're AFK or overnight cooking, it still makes sense to use mastery clothes. If you have the Lightstone set, you'll want to decide based on the value of the dish you're cooking. That means using mastery clothes for the expensive dishes like meals and the pricier components like hamburgers, and silver clothes for cheap dishes like vinegar and pickled vegetables. And when it's not quite obvious if a dish is cheap or expensive, you can use this sheet. Just plug in your setup and you'll get a nice graph showing how slow cooking compares to fast cooking. The next question is of course, at what level in your gear progression does it become worth to spend a few bills on the Lightstone set? And that's something only you can decide based on where you're at in the game, though I hope this sheet can help you with that. Now that the gear is sorted out, we need one more thing before we can start cooking, and that's materials, of course. I'll show you which materials are used in cooking and how to get them. Let's start by going through common materials and I'll tell you where to get each one of them. Mineral water, sugar and all that stuff you can buy from a cooking NPC. Fruits and vegetables you can get from a fruit vendor, in particular strawberries and paprika. There are different fruit vendors all over the world, with the most popular being Milano Bellucci and Calphion, but there are also ones in Kama, Odi and the Winter region. To get their location, just punch in fruit into the NPC search bar. Next up are node materials. And here comes the part where I tell you in excruciating detail where all the potato nodes in the game are and why you should pick them. Actually, let's not do that. Any node empire I can give you will be outdated in a few months. And I know the idea of running a pure cooking empire sounds tempting, but by only picking cooking nodes, you'll miss out on some very profitable non-cooking nodes. So I recommend getting a mix of nodes that give materials you need and nodes that are good for selling straight up. The no-brainer nodes right now are chicken meat in Valia and fig, nutmeg and date palm in Valencia. Beyond that, you can set up your node empire with the help of a node sheet if you enjoy doing that. I think having a node empire is good passive income, but min-maxing it is not worth the time spent unless you really enjoy the process. Some node materials can be processed further, for example grain into flour and dough. You can also process cheese, cream, and butter. Some recipes will ask for materials like onion, garlic, pepper, and hot pepper, and you can get them through farming. Then there's red meat. That's all meat with this specific icon, like lamb, fox, and wolf meat. You can either get it through gathering or hunting, but hunting is the preferred method at the moment. I'll link you a list of gathering rotations as well as a hunting calculator with a map of hunting spots. Keep in mind that you can buy any material that sits on the market instead of getting it yourself. Buying materials will cut into your cooking profits, but at the end of the day, you can get away with buying any raw material if you're okay with the resulting profit. Here are my recommendations for which materials to buy. Node materials always buy. Processed goods like flour and dough, check the processing profits on Bdolytics. If it's too low for your liking, buy them. Crops. Farming can be decent income, but if you don't enjoy farming or simply don't have time for it, you can always buy special crops on the market. Meat. Gathering and hunting are insanely profitable, so you should always try to collect meat yourself. There's a few materials I haven't mentioned yet. The bottleneck materials that don't sit on the market because no one wants to sell them. For example, milk, eggs, and exotic meats. Recipes with these materials are quite profitable, so of course we want to get our hands on them. Let's start with milk. The easiest and probably best way to get milk is from pre-orders and exchanging cooking byproducts. You can also farm haystacks to get milk. It's pretty underwhelming, but if you like to RP as a dairy farmer, more power to you. Playing the milk minigame can be a viable way to get milk when you're starting out with life skills, but since it doesn't scale with mastery, it becomes less attractive compared to other activities as your mastery increases. Other ways to get milk are quests that randomly pop up while you're cooking and a daily quest by Liana. While we're at it, she also has a weekly quest that gives 1 mastery scroll and the option to turn 2 loot scrolls into mastery scrolls. And there's actually a way to get milk indirectly in unlimited quantities but at a premium price. Let's say you want to cook cheese gratin but don't have any milk to turn into cheese. You can take a shortcut by buying the cheese straight off the market. That shortcut will cut into your profits, but the end product can still be profitable. Eggs are another rare resource. You can get them from pre-orders and nodes in Velia and Odraxia. You can also get eggs from Liana's quest and from farming. The same goes as for milk farming. Great for RPing as a chicken farmer, not so great for getting eggs. Next up are exotic meats like lion, snake, and scorpion. We can gather them at spots in Valencia and Drigan. Then there's gatherable plants like bracken or rainbow button mushrooms. They tend to be extremely spread out and annoying to gather. But on the bright side, gathering and cooking rare materials is where some of the best cooking profit is. Now let's talk about material substitutions. Materials are organized into material groups. There's the vegetable group, for example. So if a recipe like pickled vegetables calls for cabbage, we can actually use any vegetable. It's also possible to substitute with a higher grade material within the same group. So we could use high quality and special vegetables to replace multiple white vegetables. There has always been the rule floating around that 1 high quality substitutes 3 white items and 1 special 5 whites. But that rule is wrong and outdated. The actual substitution quality depends on the item you're substituting. For the most common cooking recipes, it's 3 to 6 for high quality and 8+ for special. Higher quality substitutions also works for dishes. For example, you can replace 2 grilled sausage with 1 smoked sausage. For recipes where the rare proc has the same color as the regular proc, like date palm wine and fig pie, that ratio is 1 to 1. Finally, there's an interesting interaction with dough. Recipes you see online are given for wheat dough, but other doughs only use half the amount compared to wheat dough. So if fig pie calls for 3 dough, you can use 3 divided by 2 and round it up equals 2 non-wheat dough. And no, it doesn't work with flour. Now I know what you're thinking. Why are material substitutions such a headache? Well, it's just BDO being BDO, but don't worry, Bdolytics will automatically apply the substitution rules when you select materials, courtesy of Warflash. On the topic of substitutions, if you farm your own crops, you will have multiple options for which seeds to farm: white, high quality, special, and magical. There's no one-fits-all solution, and what the best seed is depends on a bunch of factors. I go through this in more detail in my Imperial Cooking FAQ. Alright, we have arrived at the second question: in which town should you cook? There's not one objectively best town, and it really depends on what your priorities are. Certain towns do have advantages, and it mainly comes down to being strategically placed on the map, having a central market, and housing useful vendors. Heidel is the most central town and close to a bunch of red meat gathering spots, but doesn't have a fruit vendor. It's not that big of a deal though, because you can just overstack a horse and import a million fruits and vegetables into your town of choice. From Calpheon you can quickly reach Bear for gathering, and it does have a fruit vendor for cooking and a herb and mushroom vendor for alchemy. Valencia can be an option if all you do is gather lions, but it's obviously pretty out of the way. The sleeper picks are definitely towns from the more recent regions. Odraxia has a fruit vendor and is close to some of the best hunting spots. Ailton also has a fruit vendor and is close to Frost Wolves and to Chira Ruins for snake and scorpion gathering. As you can see, there are multiple viable options for hometowns, and it really comes down to which town aesthetic you prefer and where your life skiller has to move on a daily basis. Alright, let's talk about how to level cooking. I'll mainly focus on getting to Guru 1, since after Guru you can just continue doing whatever you did to get there. The way to Guru is sketched out on my Guru Cooking TLDR. First of all, why would you even wanna hit Guru? At Guru 1, you'll unlock the best grade of Imperial boxes, and they are worth significantly more than Master boxes and below. But not only that, higher cooking level means more mastery, meaning higher Imperial bonus. And all the cooking you did on the way to Guru generates a ton of byproducts that you can turn in for CP to increase your daily Imperial quota. So leveling your cooking has many benefits that stack on top of each other. You have access to higher value boxes, which get a higher Imperial bonus, and you can turn in more of them each day. Okay, so how do we level cooking all the way to Guru? The early progression is pretty simple. We cook vinegar until artisan and pickled vegetables until master. That will give us a healthy stockpile of pickled vegetables for the renowned Pickled Vegetable Professional box. We'll trade in that box each day for Imperials on the way to Guru. Once we're master, we can start the climb towards Guru. This is gonna be the first big mountain to climb for new cooks. But don't worry, I'll show you how to plan out your journey to Guru and level efficiently. While in other life skills getting EXP often means taking a hit in silver, I'll show you 2 routes to level your cooking and make a profit. The first route is for you if at Guru, cooking is not gonna be your main moneymaker and you simply want to buy the meals to box. The second route is great when you want to continue leveling cooking after Guru. In that case, you can already cook a stack of meals while leveling, so you will have them ready to turn in once you hit Guru. For the first route, a value pack is beneficial but not required, and for the second route, you're good without a value pack. Let's look at the first route. Here you level by cooking cheap recipes and rake in byproducts on the side. You can turn in the byproducts either for CP for the long-term gain, or milk for an instant silver injection if needed. Here's a list of recipes that I recommend crafting. You'll want to aim for high EXP and high profit. But high EXP often means low profit. For example, late palm wine has been spammed to death by other cooks. Though sometimes you can find recipes with good EXP and profit depending on the market conditions. So how much do we have to cook to hit Guru with this method? Let's check out the EXP calculator on Bdolytics. You can punch in a starting level, your goal, select a recipe and your EXP buffs. From Master 1, cooking vinegar with 700 mastery and 100% EXP buffs, it will take us about 90 hours to hit Guru. If you have higher mastery, stack more XP buffs or cook a recipe that gives more XP, it will take less time of course. Now onto the second route. Here you'll prepare a meal and its components on the way to Guru. Balenos, Valencia and Odolita are common choices for Imperial meals. Balenos and Odolita meals are great for hunters, and Valencia meals for people who don't mind gathering out of the way spots. We'll go a lot more in depth on the meals and the materials needed for them in the next video. If you choose this route, I suggest you take a minute and plan out how many crafts of the meal and how many materials you'll need to hit Guru. That way, you can start to plan out how much time you'll need to spend collecting materials like meat or farming products. On the chart, I drew up some example scenarios as a rough guideline, but I recommend calculating those values for your own mastery to get a better estimate. And here's how to do that. First, get the number of crafts to hit Guru using Warflash's XP calculator. The reason we are using this one over the Bdolytics XP calculator is that the one on Bdolytics currently doesn't factor in the XP from subcrafts, and they're a pretty big deal for meals. Okay, so here's how to use this thing. Make a copy, head to the Submeal Cooking XP tab, plug in your XP buffs, then click the Use Rare Procs button and toggle on the right which submeals to make yourself. You probably want to make all of them. Now the end result of that whole operation is gonna be the main dish crafts for goal. Back in Bdolytics, we punch in the main dish crafts for goal value into the craft quantity, and now it will give us a list of all the materials we need to hit Guru. In the recipe tree on the right, you can then adjust which materials you actually use. And in the Analytics tab, you get a breakdown of the gathering time. I know that planning out the materials for your journey is a bit of work, but you're gonna be much more efficient that way and you're less likely to run into material shortages. One thing to keep in mind with cooking meals to Guru is that you'll freeze any money invested into the meals until you hit Guru. So make sure you always have silver left over to buy materials. Here's a few things you can do to generate liquid silver. Liquidating cooking byproducts as milk, for example through cheese, selling rare drops from gathering like hearts and sharps, or grinding away your aggress points. So how does the progression to Guru look like with this method? In the early levels, I would make the cheap submeals like beer or fig pie. Starting from Master 11, I would start cooking the more expensive submeals, and then from Master 20, cook the actual meals. Of course, those are just recommendations and you can choose to deviate a bit if you like. But keep in mind that dishes require a certain cooking level to get maximum procs. Valencia meal has the highest requirement with Master 11 for the submeals and M16 for the actual meal. The rule here is 10 levels above the rare proc requirements, which is Master 6 for Valencia meals. Also, some of the more expensive submeals like Micro K and hamburgers have rare procs that you can turn into master boxes to get some money back. If you follow this plan, you'll hit Guru in somewhere around 50 hours of gathering, hunting and cooking and have a few weeks worth of meals ready to turn into Imperial boxes. And that brings me to the third question. What is the most efficient way to level cooking after Guru? Cooking meals for Imperial boxes will give you solid XP even after Guru, but since that's limited per day, how else can you level cooking? The way after Guru and eventually to G50 really is a choose-your-own-adventure kind of deal. Some people like to spam vinegar into the light Gurus, while others transform into a gather cook bot. You just gotta find whatever works for you. My general advice is to cook for money and let XP come naturally. Alright, that's it for this video. I hope you had fun and maybe you even learned something. In the next video we're gonna look at cooking for profit with Imperials, cooking for byproducts and market cooking. Also, that was my first big YouTube video and I'm always looking for feedback, so if you got any, put it in the comments. I'll see you in the next video, take care.